back to the Daily Grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
Dana White must have had a long flight or some time to sit down and write, because today he's coming in and he's responding with all this Mark Hunt stuff going around, and he's really putting it to bed with this lengthy letter that he wrote. He wrote it to the Daily Telegraph, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, yeah, the Daily Telegraph. And he's saying, you know, that how can you take somebody's own words out of context? I mean, I'll read his entire statement, but this is really putting to bed this entire story. If you don't know like what's been going on with Mark Hunt, he got pulled out of his main event fight in Sydney, Australia versus Marcin Tybura. He said he was cleared to fight, but he did an interview where he stated, I believe he wrote a letter to like the Fighters Tribune or something. He wrote his own piece or did an interview where he stated that he was slurring his words and he couldn't remember like what he had for breakfast. He said he was joking after he was pulled from the fight, but the UFC pulled him from the fight, saying, you know, you can't say those type of things and, you know, we expect us to let you fight for your own safety. If you're really having these issues, then we've got to get you some better tests, some deep, you know, we're going to bring you in to where our doctors are, our best doctors, and get you those brain tests and see what's really going on with you. Well, Mark Hunt doesn't believe that the UFC is looking out for his best interest, why they pulled him out of the fight. He thinks that Dana White has something out, that Dana White's out to get him, and Dana White's, you know, taking action against him because he's got a lawsuit with the UFC currently. And if you don't know the story about that, you're pretty far on the Mark Hunt UFC drama, far behind. So that's not too hard to find up on. But he's suing the UFC over the Brock Lesnar UFC 200. Brock Lesnar popping dirty for steroids. So Mark Hunt saying, man, they're not pulling me because of my interview where I said I can't remember what I had for breakfast. They're pulling me because I'm suing them. I know what they're doing. And it really doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, Dana White's clearing it all up here and putting it to bed. But I mean, if you look at it from the UFC's perspective, they've been, you know, they had Mark Hunt scheduled to main event in Sydney. He fought Derek Lewis in New Zealand. You know, they've been giving him some pretty nice locations for him, you know, for where he is. He's not having to travel a lot for his fights, which, you know, Fabricio Verdum and other guys have talked about how much it costs to travel. So I mean, the UFC they could have not given Mark Hunt any fights, you know what I'm saying, and tried to, like, because he's suing them. So the fact that they're giving him fights kind of helps him pay for his lawyers. So the Dana White, I'm gonna read a statement now. He's saying that Mark Hunt was never cleared to fight Marcin Tybura, and Mark Hunt said he cleared his medicals, but the UFC wanted him to do some more extensive tests. But Dana White's saying he didn't even clear his medicals. So Mark Hunt was never cleared to fight Marcin Tybura in Sydney, Australia this November, period. And the statements he's been making saying that he is are just not true. Let me tell you what I know. Mark Hunt recently wrote an op-ed piece for an Australian website where he described some serious symptoms. He wrote that he's starting to stutter and slur his words. He wrote that he's not well. He wrote that he can't remember something he did yesterday. These are his words from him, but now he's saying it was taken out of context. How can you take your own words out of context? So you know what I did? My team contacted his management within the first week of learning about those symptoms and offered to fly him to Las Vegas first class to visit the Lou Ruvo Brain Center, which is the best in the world for brain research, to get more tests done. And you know what? Absolutely refused. How can I put a guy with these symptoms he said he's experiencing immediately back in the octagon without additional test? I definitely wasn't going to do that. So I did the only thing I could do, which is to pull him off of an event that would have him fighting just 9 weeks after writing this piece, so he can have the proper time to see a specialist. Let me remind you that this is an event I already had signed contracts for, and I spent a lot of money marketing and advertising, so this was a big loss, but it was the right thing to do. He's got another point there, you know, to the point of, you know, he's already advertised this fight, and now he's got to, there's going to be some people that want refunds because Mark Hunt's not in there and they bought tickets wanting Mark Hunt. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of, the UFC does take a loss whenever their main events get canceled on some of these fights. So that would be like, that would be pretty vindictive. Like, you know what, we're gonna take that. That's a pretty fucking far stretch when you did this on interview. But anyways, I'm gonna continue because this was a pretty lengthy statement and I want to get through it. He said, so here we are now. After all of this, Mark is saying that I have it out for him and I'm holding a grudge because he filed a lawsuit. Let me ask you this. Would I have placed him in 2 additional fights, including one which he headlined the event, or paid him $1.645 million, which includes a $50,000 fight of the night bonus and a $25,000 discretionary bonus? All of this was after the lawsuit, so how can anyone say I have any issues with this guy? Bottom line, my job is to put on the best fights in the world, and part of that is to protect these guys from themselves, and I get it. They're fighters, and they want to fight, but this only works if safety comes first, and that's always been my goal, to provide a level playing field and a safe, regulated environment for our fighters to compete in. I've been doing that for almost 20 years, and I'm not going to stop now. Oh, all the way until the end. Dana White was killing it all the way until the end, where, well, he still killed it. I mean, it was a cool statement. It's going to work and everything. I mean, it really puts a bed to this, unless Mark Hunt comes out now and says, "No, look, motherfucker, here's my papers with my medicals. I did go." You know, this saga could continue, but I'm pretty sure this probably is going to put it to bed. I don't know what else Mark Hunt's going to say here to kind of dispute what Dana White's saying, and, you know, except for maybe say he's lying. But Dana White's putting it out. Man, I gave you $1.6 million since then, you know, and that's helping Mark Hunt pay for his lawsuit somewhat. I mean, I don't know how his lawyers are being paid, but it's a pretty big lawsuit he's got going on. Oh, but the part where Dana White really kind of fucking made all of this, like, kind of questionable. Like, I mean, you can't question the entire thing, but we're at the very last paragraph where he said, but this only works if safety comes first. Always been my goal to provide a level playing field and a safe, regulated environment for our fighters to compete in. I'm fine with that, you know, and I'm sure he has, but whenever I just think back to the Brock Lesnar situation, the actual Brock Lesnar Mark Hunt situation, and it's like, okay, you know, has your goal really always been a level playing field? When you're bringing Brock Lesnar in from the WWE and waiving his USADA, you know, exemption, you know, giving him the exemption from USADA, waiving that 1 month period or whatever the hell for a new fighter, like, I don't know about that. So, with that being said, I'm pretty sure this is put to bed at this point. We'll see if Mark Hunt responds, and if it's fucking something super interesting, I guess we'll report on it. But with that being said, it is what it is, man. Let the full-time family know what the fuck you tell me in the comments. I'm out.
Bye, Felicia.